Hello guys, welcome back to Money Sense with Miss T. My name is Tendo Jo and I am your financial coach. And on today's episode, we're doing things a little bit differently. All right, let's move on to the next set of questions. And this one is, or rather these ones are specifically related to Money Sense. How is Money Sense doing? What are some of the greatest lessons you've learned ever since you've started Money Sense? And is Money Sense making any money? Brilliant questions. I think I actually particularly love the last one. And I think it's a fair question. It's a fair question. And I'm going to just try and respond to all of these questions in one sitting, right? But I want to start off by saying if I was to just observe some of the greatest lessons, or it doesn't necessarily have to be like the greatest lessons, but one thing that I think has really, really helped me in this journey is a scripture that speaks to how we must never despise the days of small beginnings. And the part that I love the most, and I think whenever I read this scripture, the part that I appreciated was the first part, which is do not despise the days of small beginnings or the days of humble beginnings. But what I now appreciate more is that it further on says that because God rejoices to see the work begin, right? And I think we should all rejoice when we start or when we embark on a completely new journey, right? Or when we start something, right? Because there is so much power in starting, right? When you start, you actually are affording yourself the opportunity to grow. You're affording yourself the opportunity to even improve. You're affording yourself the opportunity to work on something, as opposed to just visualizing and writing the vision down and praying about it and wishing it will happen. But actually, when you start doing things, when you start putting action behind the things that you want to do, that's when you are able to grow. That's when you are able to see yourself move from these humble beginnings to this grand place that I think we all sort of envision ourselves at when we are basically embarking on a new journey, or when we want to build something remarkable, or when we are starting a business. So yeah, I think for me it was just a matter of understanding that, okay, this is redirection for me. I'm stuck. There's no way I'm going to get formal employment in the next 6 months because I'm in a foreign country. I just moved from the US to the UK. I didn't have a work permit in the UK, and it was going to take forever because, again, we were in lockdown. So work permits were not really a priority. So I knew that for the next 6 months, there are no prospects of formal employment, right? And I needed to then sit down and ask myself, what do I have? What can I do? What are my gifts? What are my talents, right? The power of pivoting, the power of understanding that, guys, like someone actually referred a book to me that says everything is figure-outable. You can figure things out, right? And I guess it's also the ability to just pivot, the ability to sit down and map out, what do I have and what can I do with what I have? And that was basically it. When I started Money Sense, I had one individual client, and that client was not someone from far away overseas. No, that client was my friend. It was literally my friend. And then I had done master classes with, actually my first master class was with about 25 candidate attorneys in South Africa. And the more I did this, the more I learned that, oh, actually this works, this doesn't work. Oh, we can actually streamline this process. Actually, let's automate. Actually, no, let's use Calendly. That's how people should book me. Do you get what I'm saying? And then over time, then I get the confidence to stand in front of organizations. Well, not stand in front of organizations, but present, write out proposals and be able to communicate my value, because I have a history of having done sufficient work to say this product works. If that makes sense. So yeah, it's, for me, I think the biggest thing is starting. Start where you are with what you have. So the other big lesson, and I don't think there's anyone who's actually cracked this one and can say, oh, I am so good at this one. And I think this one speaks to being able to handle rejections, being able to handle the no's, because before you get to the yeses, right, there are so many no's. I don't know how many organizations I've pitched to. I don't know how many proposals I've written. And sometimes you walk into a room, people really like you, you've communicated your value, and at the end of the day, they're just like, it's not aligned with what we are trying to do, or there's no budget for this. And then other times you walk into a room and someone immediately, they're just like, you don't even have to finish. Come, let's work together. So again, it's also understanding that you are not money, my dear. Not everyone is going to like you. And also, your product is not going to speak, it's not going to speak the same language to every single person. And you're not going to get yeses from every single organization or from every single person that you pitch your business to, or you're offering to. So I think, the ability to understand that it's not personal. Perhaps, yes, you may need to work on your craft, you may need to work on your delivery, you may need to work on communicating your value a little bit more in a better manner, which is something that I always do after every proposal, after every presentation. I'm always going back to the drawing board to get feedback, to understand how I can do things better and stuff. But outside of that, I think, the greatest learning from a no is understanding, perhaps, if you do have access to that type of information, why they said no, but also to just get better at what you do. And before you know it, I've actually realized that some of the organizations I approached, at the time, they were just not ready, right? And over a period of a year or even 18 months, they come back and they're like, okay, let's try it out. So again, sometimes it's not a no, it's a maybe, right? But that should never stop you from trying. That should never make you feel like, maybe I'm not giving value, or maybe I'm not good enough. No. Never doubt yourself, especially when you know that you're really applying yourself, you're putting your best foot forward, and where you can, you're really leveling up. And with this leveling up issue, I think very important, and another very big takeaway in this journey of entrepreneurship is the fact that, guys, like, I've had to level up a lot. So on the issue of leveling up, I think I always say, if you want to level up a certain area in your life, say you want to level up or become better, or become confident and aware of how you can possibly improve in an area, let's say your finances, let's say your health, your career, your professional development. And for me personally, it has been a business, right? I would suggest that you get a coach, because those people, guys, raise your level of awareness to things that are not rocket science, things that are not outside of what you probably already know, but they're just raising your level of awareness, so that now you are like actively aware of the things that may be limiting beliefs, the things that may be perhaps hindering you from achieving your goal, right? And I'll give you an example. I recently a few months ago, I got a swimming coach. I know how to swim. I was in the swimming team, but I just realized that for some reason, right, I could swim, I could swim laps, but I would just get so tired so quickly, right? And I thought, if I observe the other children on the other lanes, right, they are swimming 30 minutes. 30 minutes nonstop, or 40 minutes nonstop. And that's where I want to get to, because again, my objective right now is to be in the water for that long, because it helps me with energy, it helps me with mental health, etc. Right? So I get the coach and I tell him that that's my objective. I'm trying to get to a place where I can swim for a very long time. So longevity, right? So then he asks me to obviously dive in and show him what I've got. So I dive in, crawl, backstroke, breaststroke. And then at the end of that exercise, because again, I was in the pool and he was standing outside, and that's what a coach is, right? They look into what you are doing. You are in the game. So you don't have preview to what's happening in the game because you are in the game. So I'm in the water and he's outside, and he's able to tell me that, I can see that the reason you're not able to swim for long is you probably think this is a gala, right? And when you are in a gala, again, you're just swimming probably 25 meters or 50 meters long and you're done, right? Or you're doing 2 laps at most. Again, you are not breathing properly. And in order for you to achieve longevity in the pool, you're going to have to know how to breathe properly. And as such, we started to work on our breathing technique. And today, 30 minutes, 40 minutes straight, I can swim without needing to like stop for an extended period of time. And that's exactly the point. Right? In business, or in any area of your life, if you want to level up, if you want to become better, if you want to become good, right, you need to be willing to get yourself an accountability partner, which is what a coach is, right? The other thing is, I listen to so many podcasts, I watch so many YouTube videos on different topics that I think will help me in the business. I'm currently attending a program with one of the big banks in the UK. I do courses, like I am doing anything and everything under the sun to improve this brand, to improve this person, to improve the business. And so I'm learning that the more I'm investing in myself, it's starting to also show in the way that I show up for the business, in the way that I coach, in the way that I deliver master classes, etc. So the other thing that this journey has birthed is like courage, man. Courage to do things out of my comfort zone, like sitting on this chair, looking at a lens and just speaking, being on YouTube and being on social media and just training myself and pushing myself to learn how to really communicate value to the offering that Money Sense has, right? And I think if there's one thing that we can all take advantage of and leverage off, it's just, guys, the social media space or the digital space, right? Some of my wins in business have been because of my social media presence, right? And I'll give you an example which will also link in very well with, are we actually making money? Is Money Sense actually making money? So I post some of my work strategically on LinkedIn, and I just started noticing that there was this guy who just, really engaged with my content, because again, if you go onto the back end of the system, you're able to see these things, right? And so I looked at his profile, because again, LinkedIn gives you access to that. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to send him a DM and I'm going to propose that I present to him, because when I looked at the title and the nature of the work that he was doing, he was actually my ideal customer. So he basically runs a scholarship program, so works with students as well as young professionals, right? So I reach out to him, I present, obviously blow him away, and he's just like, oh, I'm blown away, but sorry, I can't help you, but I know someone who can, right? So he sends a soft landing email, which made soft landing emails make a difference, right? Sent a soft landing email to another organization, and they asked me to come and present. So I pitched, I presented, sent the proposal, and now we are at a place where we're doing work together on a continuous basis this year as well as next year. And then the other big win that I got just by posting, right, was probably it was not the same post, but it was another post on LinkedIn, and a lot of people actually reshared that post, and it landed on someone who then sent me a DM and said, I'm looking for you, right? And I immediately responded, and I'm like, I am also looking for you. And again, it was my ideal customer, and again, we've signed contracts, and I'm doing work readiness programs with them, and it just this also just reminds me of that saying that goes, what you are looking for is also looking for you, right? But also just the power of algorithms, yeah? Just the power of social media, just the power of the ability to apply yourself and communicate value, and your product or your offering landing into the right hands, right? And I think it also brings me to this issue that I always raise that stops people from doing things, or stops people from starting, because when you start, most of the time you're starting from humble or small beginnings, right? People resist to start because they're just like, I don't have a big following, or I don't have a big subscription rate, or whatever the case is. And I always say, listen, you want to create work that is going to reach the right people, not the masses, right? Because I don't think anyone can ever come up with a product that will reach like and that will speak to every single person, right? So yeah, that's just to say, don't sleep on social media. Don't sleep on the digital space. And thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for engaging with my content. Thank you so much for sharing, for liking, for subscribing. All of those things make a big difference. And like I said, you just never know where your work is going to land. And this has just pushed me to even be more serious and intentional and deliberate about the things I do on social media or on the digital space. Something I should have not stopped doing. Geez, I would say it would have to be exercise. I stopped exercising as soon as I think in varsity here and there, but I was not really committed. But primary school and high school, I was very sporty. I played netball, I did athletics, I also swam. I was like in most of the sporting teams, right? And then university, not really committed, not really serious about it. So I really dropped it. And even when I started working, it wasn't really a priority. And right now, it's like the greatest priority, because I think it's keeping me sane. It's giving me the energy that I need. It's also, I didn't know this. It's also giving me the creativity I need. Guys, let me tell you, the level of creativity I have when I'm in that swimming pool and I'm swimming for 40 minutes or 30 minutes straight, unbelievable. I did not know that about exercise. And that's the thing. I think for me, exercise was something that made me stay out of the streets. Maybe as a kid, I didn't realize that it contributed to my academic my academic capabilities or my productivity, just as an example. And I think in university, I may have also seen it as something that you do when you want to lose weight, right? Which would obviously be also something that is very topical right now, but I'm not yet in that losing weight space. But I think I'm learning that, geez, man, exercise, we cannot even begin to limit it to just loss of weight. But I think it's got great holistic wellness benefits that, yeah, man, I should have never stopped doing it. And actually tying it to the question where someone was asking about how I've dealt with baby fat. I did not deal with baby fat. I have not dealt with baby fat. So this is what happened, ne? I I breastfed until Kai was about 14 months. And then as soon as I stopped breastfeeding, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go on an eating plan. I'm going to lose weight. And that never happened. And then my husband said, no, let's try. I was already walking because here you walk. Everything we do is walking, right? But maybe let's try and let's get back to the swimming pool. Let's go and sign up for swimming. And so we started swimming, and it really was a game changer, right? I would not say that has caused me to lose weight. I'm not even measuring, but I don't think I've lost any weight. Actually, my clothes are now tighter. But yeah, the priority is definitely not losing weight. But during that season after breastfeeding, where I was just like, yeah, I really have to lose weight, I spoke to a friend of mine, Yo, and she's a mom of two, and I was telling her how stressed I am and how my clothes are not fitting. Hey, I need to quickly lose weight, but also I'm equally concerned about the fact that, okay, if we start planning for baby number two now all the work goes to waste. I'm just, yeah, really consumed and really stressed about weight, right? And she's just like, no, mama, I think what you need to focus on right now is your mental health. Buy clothes that suit you, that fit you, that look good on you. Put on makeup, look good, feel good, and then we'll talk about actually losing weight and firming up and stuff like that once your headspace is right. And exercise actually afforded me that, and I feel like, yeah, headspace is getting there. Headspace is definitely getting there, and eventually the eating plans will come in place. Lessons learned in my 20s. So I spent most of my 20s in school, right? So I arrived at Wits for my undergrad at 18. Spent a considerable amount of time, right? I did not graduate on record time. I spent a little bit more time at Wits, and then I moved on to UJ to bridge CTA, and then I did CTA, but I in my overall CA journey, also this is tying into how my CA journey was. Nothing was achieved on record time, if I can put it that way. The only thing that I passed first time around was CTA and ITC, the first board exam and honors, but also bearing in mind that I did bridge honors. So I spent a lot of my 20s repeating and feeling like I'm running out of time. Just feeling like, yo, the day I qualify, the person I will become, the person I will be, the things I will do, the things I will buy, right? And I think that level of obsession and that level of just, I don't know, but I think the biggest thing for me during that season was that I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time. And right now, in retrospect, I would tell my younger self, although that person might actually not have listened to me, is the fact that all things were working together for my good. All things were working together for my good because I love God and I have been called according to his plans and his purposes, right? And the other thing that I also learned after a very long journey to qualifying as a chartered accountant, when the time is right, and I think we all love this scripture, when the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen, right? At the time, also in my 20s, sorry, I feel like I'm all over the place, but in my 20s, I was also in a relationship. It started off as a relationship in Johannesburg, and then my boyfriend, then boyfriend, now husband, moved overseas. So then it became a long distance relationship, and again, the waiting process around when will it be my turn to get engaged, to get married, all of those wonderful things. Like, I'm running out of time. What if this guy drops me? Because again, guys, hey, long distance relationships can be tricky, I get. So, but guys, let me tell you, in 2019, this is why I'm saying, like, understand that all things work together for your good, and that certain seasons prepare you for the season you are going into, right? But in 2019, things just fell into place, and it just speaks to the fact that when the time is right, he will make it happen, right? He is the one who has a plan for your life. And yes, sometimes we may derail because we think we are clever or we think we can figure things out. But 2019 was a very big year for me. February, I got my results. I qualified, certified as a CA, and then in April we got married. We had a beautiful wedding, a wedding that we definitely did not afford. That wedding was actually made possible because of our parents' generosity. Yeah, so April we get married, and then May packed my bags, and I got an opportunity to go work in the US for 18 months, landed in San Francisco. And again, guys, God orders our steps. I wanted to go to New York, but I ended up going to San Francisco, which I think we all know as the hub of all things startups. And this is the place that really stirred up the need for me to say, I'm going to do something about what we now know as money sense, right? I was in an environment that really young people were buzzing. Young people were asking themselves questions about how can we solve the world's problems with tech, right? And I found myself in that environment. That environment ignited the excitement and what we now know as money sense. And again, it was the right time. That season in San Francisco was preparing me for the season now when I was now in the UK, needing to conceptualize and needing to put the dream, right, and the inspiration and the motivation to work. And now we have what we call money sense. So all of this is to say you're not running out of time. God has a plan for your life, and that when the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. All right, and then the last one that also ties into my CA journey. Someone asked me to give them tips on exams, because I understand it is exam season. We're writing final exams, and I've got about 3 things that I want to bring to your attention, things that are obviously not new, things that you know. And this is also coming from the back of the fact that I do coach an aspiring CA cohort for one of the scholarship programs, one of the biggest scholarship programs in South Africa. And yeah, I get a lot of insights from speaking to different students, those that are doing exceptionally well, those that are just making it, right? And the first one is when you prepare for your exams, you don't want to use a study technique is that is basically you writing as many notes as possible and reading as many notes as possible and highlighting and flagging. I'm sure that's what you've been doing the whole year. What you now need to be doing is employing a study technique called active recall or active retrieval, where you are actually now putting yourself to the test. And what does this mean? You are basically going to select tutorials, select questions from your question bank or past papers, and you're going to sit down and you're going to simulate exam conditions and put yourself under time pressure and try to attempt responding to these questions, right? And when you are doing this, guys, you don't want to be looking at the solution, because again, we're simulating exam conditions. Because if you do look at the solution, the OER method that we all know, right, you are actually robbing yourself of the opportunity to be able to apply the things that you have been putting into your brain for the entire year, right? And this skill, guys, of application is the skill that's going to be required of you where? On the day of the exam, which is why we are saying you need to practice like you would play on the day of the exam. And obviously, as you are practicing, you are using your watch, you are using a clock of some sort that you can actually get. I use the lime green clock that I got from Crazy Store. Use that thing, get familiar with that thing. You don't want to get to the exam on the day of the exam and realize that the clock in the hall is actually not working, or you're sitting in an awkward situation or in an awkward position and you're not able to see what time it is. So practice under time pressure, practice under exam conditions, and once you're done practicing, you want to mark. When you mark, you're actually cementing your knowledge of the subject matter. You will get things right and you will get things wrong. And where you are actually getting things wrong, it's important for you to cascade it further, to double click and ask yourself, why am I getting things wrong? Am I getting things wrong because I'm not reading the question properly and understanding it? Am I getting things wrong because veleki content, I don't get the content? Or am I getting things wrong because I'm not able to mark? Because again, there's what we call principal marking in these with these subjects, right? So make sure that you're marking properly, right? And when you train yourself in marking, you're actually getting familiar and confident with the language that the examiner uses to examine, as well as the language that the examiner uses when they are actually writing out the script. So again, you're getting used to the language, you're getting comfortable, you're getting confident with the content the more you mark your work. The second thing is you want to make sure that you're giving yourself the best chance of winning in the exam. And the best chance speaks to you being well rested. I would rather you arrive at an exam well rested than you trying to cross night and trying to drink, I don't know what drinks you guys drink at the night before an exam, trying to cram as many things into your system as possible in an attempt to look and sound or even feel like you are more ready or more prepared for an exam, right? So sleep is a very important part of the process or of your exam technique. Sleep is the one thing that will actually help you in an exam, right? Because sleep facilitates with helps you recharge. It helps with memory consolidation and learning, and those are the things that you need to perform well in an exam. So on the day of the exam, again, another good exam technique is that during reading time, again, you're identifying triggers, right? So you're underlining, you're circling, you're writing small notes. You're not doing deep calculations, but again, this is for awareness. Then the second thing is, once the question comes out, once the you are required comes out, you want to prioritize which question you're going to start with. And which question do you start with? You start with the question that you know the most, the question where you're going to get the most marks, the one that when you look at, you're like, yeah, this one I'm going to nail. And the reason you want to do that is because you understand that writing an exam is a game, and it's a game of trying to bag as many marks as possible in the quickest possible time. But outside of that, when you start with things that you know, they give you confidence, and it sets the momentum for the duration of the exam. Even when you start approaching more difficult sections, because already mindset is of the fact that, okay, I can pass this exam, you approach more difficult sessions, or rather sections, in a better mindset, right? So that's what you want to do. And then the second way of prioritizing your question is you want to do the question that has the most marks, right? So that's how you would go about prioritizing it. And once you've prioritized your questions, next to each question, you're going to then put in the timestamps when you are actually going to write this exam, or rather attempt this question. What do I mean? So if you're going to start with question 2, just as an example, between 9, which is the time that you will be writing the exam, between 9 and 9:30, you will be doing this question. And then between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, just as an example, you will be doing the second question, and so on. What are you doing? You are actually allocating sufficient time for each question so that you give each question the time that it deserves. Because again, coverage is a very important thing when it comes to exams. You want to make sure that you've attempted everything and you've given yourself the opportunity to attempt everything. So again, the way, and which is something that I see with a lot of students that's becoming more and more prevalent, is that students are not finishing exams, and we're not going to finish exams by accident. We're going to finish them by design. And this is just one of the ways you can do it, by having these timestamps. But again, having practice like we would play. So during your preparation times, as you're doing tutorials, you're doing them under exam technique, under time pressure, and that's actually helping you with what? Managing your time. That's helping you understanding how to manage time with every question that you do. I hope this is helpful. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. And if this is your kind of content, please do subscribe and share this message with as many people as you can. Comment, let me know what you liked about this video. And yeah, I hope to see you next time. Thank you.